Everybody has their own reasons for serving on a nonprofit board, but there are 5 that I think are the most important. And the first one is connecting with your own passion, what you really love. All of us cared about certain things when we were kids or younger people, but sometimes we put that aside when we are in our careers and we're raising families or whatever. For example, I knew a lawyer who was a corporate lawyer and he was working crazy hours, and I thought he would never want to be on a board. But he got on a theater board, and because he loved acting when he was in college, that just brought him to life. He spent a good chunk of time there. He got involved with the actors, and he felt like he was back in the world that he loved. So he still had his day job, and he was, by the way, very good in court, but he was connected to that. A second thing is camaraderie. Like, you don't get to pick the people you work with all the time, but you can pick the boards that you work with. And sometimes you'll find people who care about the same things that you care about. For example, I had a friend who's a real big birder, and his wife was sick to death of hearing him talk about, seeing this kind of sparrow or that kind of bird. But he was on the board of the local Audubon Society chapter, and he just could geek out about birds to no end, and it was really satisfying for him. And it was nicer for his wife as well, because she didn't have to listen to him talk about birds all the time, because he had an outlet for that. The next opportunity, though, that you get from serving on a nonprofit board is that you get to develop skills that you might not have the chance to develop in your regular job. So, for example, I knew a guy who was a sales manager, and he chose to serve on the HR committee of a small museum, and the woman who chaired that committee was one of the hotshots, one of the HR hotshots in our whole region. So he had a wonderful mentor, and he learned a lot from serving on the HR committee of that nonprofit. And then when he got promoted, it was extremely useful, and he was a much better manager than he ever would have been otherwise. And then there's also connections. I have hired and been hired by people that have been fellow board members. Why? Because you get to see people act in a crisis, or how responsible they are. So, like, if there's a financial crisis, do they just bail? Do they leave the board? Or do they dig in? Are they creative under pressure, or do they freeze? There's all kinds of things you learn about someone that you will never find out in a job interview. So again, I've been hired by people that I've served on boards with, and I've also hired people that I've served on boards with. And I think the final thing for me is the impact. None of us wants to die and have left no footprints in the sand. To think that nothing is different in the world because you existed is really sad. So if you think about if serving on a nonprofit board, you can save open space that would have been destroyed if it weren't for you. You can educate kids who have completely different lives because of you. You can create great art, help to create great art that never would have happened and never have touched audiences if it weren't for you. So making that kind of difference, making an impact, is probably one of the most satisfying parts of serving on a nonprofit board. So I would just remember, when you're considering these opportunities, connect to your passion. Find people that you like. Don't serve on a board if you really don't like your fellow board members. Think about how you can grow. Look for growth opportunities. Seek connections that can be useful to you. There's nothing wrong with having something, what's in it for me, when serving on a nonprofit board. And then look for a place where you're going to make an impact. If you find all those 5 things in one board, you'll be a better board member.